and welcome to Connect to Love here on PRN-FM. I'm Lisa LaRose, and I am joined by the incredible Michael J. Russ for another exploration of the power of human connection, the energy of love, and the simple truth of making your life extraordinary. I want to say welcome, Michael. It's such a beautiful day, and I know that you're enjoying an amazing day as well.
Always. As long as the sun is shining and the sky is blue, I love it. I love it. It's a fantastic day today.
It's a blessing, isn't it? It's the simple things in life that bring us joy. I mean, we think that we need all of these other things, and I'm like you. I mean, the sky was so radiantly blue, and the sun was out. And I know that we have cold weather ahead the next few days, but it doesn't matter because I'm in the present moment, and I'm basking in the sunshine. And I'm happy to be doing so. And it's the spring equinox. The daffodils are peeking their little heads out.
Yeah, spring equinox within 2 days. Well, we got 21st of March, right?
No, it's the 19th. It's today.
Is it today? I thought it was the 21st. Oh, my God. Well, there you go. What do I know?
Yeah. Doesn't matter. It's okay. In a place of no time, no space, no matter. It's all the same. Right? Right?
Exactly.
I know.
It's all good. It's all good. I love it. Hey, this is fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
Dahlias are blooming like crazy all over the neighborhood. About to get some gardenias here in the next couple weeks. Spring harvest of gardenias. And beautiful fragrance, wonderful fragrance. One of my favorites in the world. That and Hawaiian pikaki. I'll tell you, the fragrance is just amazing in the spring. You know, it's interesting because you can go outside sometimes. I'm out playing with the dog in the backyard in the morning, and I'll take a whiff, and I'll go, it's spring.
I know.
You know?
Well, we get the lily of the valley. Those I love. They're so fragrant, and the hyacinths and the lilacs. I mean, lilac season is not long enough for me. It just, oh, my gosh, it's intoxicating. Yeah, no, I just love them. It is.
We have lots to look forward to as far as our olfactory getting a little workout, don't we? Spring.
For sure.
Love it. The weather's so beautiful in shoulder seasons. So we got a really cool topic today.
Last week, I think both Michael and I were so inspired by Mick Clegg. And for any of you who were not available to tune into that episode, it was really fantastic. He was the former power and development coach for Manchester United. And it was so amazing because although he has trained some of the greatest athletes, and it was really pivotal in his career, and he really taught them to train smarter with intention. But it was his human connection that really, I think, left an impact on you, Michael, as well as me. And that he really understood that the true success isn't about doing more, but it was doing what matters most consistently and with heart. And really that life is very simple, that what we give out is what we get back, which is what Louise Hay had always taught. And I was a big student of Louise Hay's. I found her book, You Can Heal Your Life, many, many years ago. And she was the founder of Hay House Publishing. And what I found so fascinating about her, what was so inspiring, is she had this passion. She was sort of one of those people who found her way, as did Mick. It wasn't that he went to school and studied this. It was something that was intuitive. And for Louise Hay, she just found positive thinking, which is both what you and I subscribe to. And she was a student of Florence Scovel Shinn, who I absolutely adore as an author, and that positive thinking could really change people's material circumstances. And I think that's sort of where Mick's thought process was in training the amazing world-class athletes that he did. He kind of didn't rely on complex algorithms or cutting-edge technology. Instead, he looked at the relationships that he could foster with people, and he really knew how to unlock the incredible potential, and it was through human connection and simplicity. So Michael said to me, he said, you know, we're really just on the tip of the iceberg when we're speaking about the concept of simplicity. And he said, why don't we explore that? And I'd love to hear your thoughts, Michael, because there were a lot of takeaways that I got from the conversation with Mick, not only about simplicity in parenting, but also in careers and also in relationships. So I'd love to see what inspired you most and where we can take this conversation, because simplicity, it's the key.
I agree. One of the takeaways from last week's conversation I thought was really apropos and very mature in terms of relational thinking is how he never went to anyone and said, here's what I can do for you. He literally listened to them, and he was an influencer. The things that he did, the things that he said, influenced them to come to him and say, I'd like to know what you can do for me. How can you help me? Instead of how can I help you get better? They asked him. He developed a level of trust and with each of these players because he listened to them. It's interesting. I saw something today that was really unique by a gal on Instagram. I think her name is Meg. But she said, she was very reminding of something very simple, and that is that anybody who talks over you isn't listening to you and isn't interested in what you have to say. They're interested in what they can say. And there are a lot of people out there who simply want to fill a void with their own voice. That's not Mick. Mick wasn't like that. Mm-hmm. Intuitively, what he did was just simply get to know them, and they would in the developing that connection and listening. They would come into his office, and they'd sit down, and he would say, "What's up? What's going on?" And he'd just shut up and let them talk. And I've been in sales for going on 50 years, and when you're looking to discover someone's problems, you have to let them tell you what their problems are. It's not about that what you have can you're not manufacturing a problem that your product or service can solve. You're literally listening to them, asking them what's going on. How do you feel about this? And then shut up and you let them tell you what is wrong with their life, whatever the product is that they don't have, whatever circumstance they're involved in. And in doing that, that's how you develop not only an understanding of what's going on with them, but you also then know exactly whether or not you can help them. And that was what he was so adamant about. It's not like, hey, I'm here to help you, and I'm the strength and power coach for Man United, and listen to me, I've got everything going for me, and I'll make you better, and because that's my job. It was everybody's different, everybody's unique, everybody wants to go from one place to another. And when Cristiano Ronaldo came to him and said, I'm going to be the best player in the world, my goal is I am the best player in the world. I know it. I just have to go through the motions to get there. And he let him do whatever he was going to do, but if there was something that he needed to talk about, some hurdle he needed to get over, he confidently sat down and talked to Nick about it. And Nick gave him some suggestions. It wasn't that he went to Cristiano and said, here, I can help you. Listen to me. There's 1, here's 2, here's 3. You do these things, you're going to be the best in the world. Well, no, not really. You don't know where anybody is. And in life, we're all coming from a different place.
You're absolutely right.
10 people in the same room for the same seminar, and each of them is going to be looking for something different.
Right.
Because of where they are.
Do you recall, Michael, Mick was speaking about a player that he actually wrote a whole chapter about in his book, and that particular player, his name is Teddy Sheringham. And it was really interesting because after the conversation we had last week, I thought, I'm going to revisit the book because it's been a while since I've read it. And it just so happened that I opened it up right to that chapter. And I reread I know, of course. And I reread the chapter because what was so remarkable about that chapter was really Mick's first full season in working with the first team of Manchester United. They have all different levels in the team. And so it was really quite an honor to be able to work with the first team players. And in the very beginning of that season, he was looking at the players, and the other coaches asked him, who do you feel is the fittest player on the squad?
Right.
And he looked at, they expected them to say Keane or Beckham or Giggs, and it wasn't. He said, I picked the oldest player on the outfield, and that was Teddy Sheringham. And it was so interesting, they laughed at him, and they said, he's 35. Like by the end of the season, he's not going to be anything. But he looked at all the different aspects of the strengths, including not just what was on the pitch, but is all the different aspects of fitness. And he said it was really interesting. He said the first day that he went out onto the field with the players, and the club had given him the outfit, but nobody really knew him. And so when he was standing there, I guess he was in the crossfire of Teddy's peripheral vision, and Teddy shouted at him, like, get off the field, go back to the gym. He said to him, and he's like, oh, this is like a great start to this. But instead of getting defensive, Mick made a joke about it, and he said, don't worry, like if you're in the parking lot, you can run over me in your car, I'll get in your way. He just made a joke about it. And he said it was sort of like a back and forth, and he really didn't feel that Teddy was very fond of him. But he, continued. He didn't get defensive, and he was doing boxing and doing other things with these other players. But he said one day when he was finishing the session with one of the other players, in walked Teddy with his son. And he said, he introduced his son. He said, this is my boy, Charlie. He said, I'd like you to coach him. And Mick was just flabbergasted. And he just said, the biggest honor you can get is for a parent to say, I want you to train my child.
Right.
And I think that has a really big testament to who he is, and that he has this fundamental connection to empathy and presence and genuine care. And it isn't, it's not that just that wisdom. It's going back to that simplicity. He's not overthinking every interaction. He's not becoming defensive. He's not, trying to prove who he was. He was just sort of stepping back and allowing that space. And there's a lot of simplicity in that. I know for me, whenever I have a challenge, rather than get wrapped up in this whirlwind like a little tornado and get so fractionated, if I just take a deep breath and I just kind of go back to that simple space and breathe and just allow and just kind of watch, everything will settle down. Everything settles in. And I think that that's really was what I garnered from our conversation with Mick. It was really fantastic. It was a great reminder to me.
Yeah, it was a great example of how listening opens up space for learning about someone, and how it can foster that connection of trust and understanding. Because if you think about it, there's not a lot of listening going on. I grew up in an area where in the same area Mick did, and that's one of those, an era where you didn't have all the noise, you didn't have all the distraction, and you had it wasn't chaos free. It's just that it wasn't in your face all the time. And because it's not in your face all the time, you develop the skill of listening and connecting with people, because that's how you got through the day. That's how you got up in the morning and went to bed. You connected with people, whether it was in your lower school, middle school, high school, college, whatever it was. Wherever you were, you didn't have the digital distractions of information just coming at you at a umpteen zillion miles an hour, and where you have to field all that information, feel as if you need to field all that information. That's really the biggest issue right now. People aren't listening because they're to other people, because they're listening to abstract information that has no relevance to them at this particular point in their lives. And the sad thing is that we we allow it to happen. We allow it to happen. That is the thing. We forget that we're in charge. We're in charge. And
you and I had a conversation about that, Michael. Like the 3 seconds that we have, and it seems like that's the attention span. People have a 3-second attention span, and there is, this social media or whatever it is. It's like everywhere you are, it's like screaming for this complexity, like hustle. Let's get the next big thing. Let's do this. Let's this, and instead of just hitting that pause button and choosing to embrace the beauty and like stripping back and going, okay, breathe, find that peace of being uncomplicated. And I apologize. Finish what you were saying. I
think you're absolutely spot on. The thing about the digital era is its longevity is not its thing. Short bites are its thing, and all of the digital information is collected and disseminated in short bites because there's so much of it, number one, and they recognize that they only have a few seconds to get your attention in order to grasp a little more of your time. And so when we connect with people, if you're immersed in that world and you become accustomed to small sound bites, when you get together with somebody at a gathering of people and there is no digital, you're just literally connecting face to face, your brain has been trained to sound bites, to be accustomed to sound bites. And so that means that your attention span for listening becomes just as short as the digital soundbite. And so if this is the world you grow up in, where you didn't have exposure to the contrast of not having that in your face, then you don't know any other way. And presently, then you listen for a few moments, and then you don't know what to do. You don't know what to say. You don't know how to take it further than just listening to the first few seconds of whatever it is. And it's kind of like everybody's like, get to the point. Well, the point is that there's a story. That's the point. And you have to wait through the story to get the point. Why would I want to? You're missing the journey, right? You want to go from beginning to end. Give me the end, right? And so the beautiful thing, again, that I liked about the conversation we had with Mick is the way that he was able to develop those relationships by actually moving past a few sound bites. And even working with players who, he's been doing this. I don't think he has his gym for 40 years, so I think he's been doing this a very long time. And so he went from the contrast. He and you and I, we were all familiar with the contrast of the contrasting the digital versus the analog, the non-digital world. And the good question now is, how do you have to, with intention, decide that you're going to be a communicator. And part of communicating, the lion's share of it is simply listening. That's all it is. It's just listening.
Right.
Listening to people. And not people who are, it's not about listening to people's gripes and complaints and, verbiage rooted in victimization. It's about if you're looking to help someone go from where they are now to where they would like to be, you have to listen to where they would like to be. They have to tell you. It's not something that you can say, I know where you need to be. Well, you really don't. You're making a huge assumption. And that's the thing that's so unique about communicating with people. And they'll tell you if you give them the space to. And that's what Mick did. Mick did it all the time. So beautiful.
You're absolutely right. And there were so many different things. And, it's interesting. So I don't remember what you were just saying, what the exact word that came out of your mouth, but it just made me think of something I recently saw on Instagram, and I apologize, I don't remember the date, but it was in London. And I know that you love sunsets as much as I do, like just sitting there watching the sunset, taking and the simplicity of a sunset. And this particular upcoming event, I believe it's in April. It's either at the end of March or beginning of April. And it's a no technology event, and they've advertised it. They show a thing where you lock your cell phone in, and it's a gathering. They're trying to set a world record of the biggest gathering of people to watch a sunset with no technology. And I thought, how interesting is that? A new category, right?
The fact that there has to be that category is really interesting. I mean, it's like, you know, I know
I take. That was the norm, right?
Yeah, I mean, Instagram moments are, you know, there's 3 generations that have been trained to literally not be in the moment, but capture the moment in a digital way, right? We used to use cameras, so it's not like we didn't, you know, in some way capture the moment. It's just that the tendency now is you not only capture the moment, but you want to, you have this deep addiction to make sure that somebody somewhere in the world sees that what you've captured in that moment, that you're capturing it, right? That's what Instagram is all about, and social media. And the beautiful thing is, when I see these beautiful sunsets down at the beach, I'm in them. I'm
you
looking
are.
at them.
I know you are, because you're like me.
Yeah,
you breathe
but
it
in. I might take a picture of something what I think is absolutely unique, but it's one picture, you know. And I put my phone away and continue to enjoy, because as any good photographer will tell you, that, you know, you're no longer in the moment of whatever is occurring if you're in your camera or in your phone. You're not there present. You're thinking about how you can capture whatever is going on in that moment, and not in the moment. You take yourself out of it. You do that. So it is so unique, and you're absolutely right. I was thinking about just about anything with regard to today. You know, I was thinking about the moon the other day, and how I got up at 2:30 in the morning to see the lunar eclipse, and I just laid out on the grass, and I had a very small window to actually see it, because it was cloudy outside and there was a front coming in, and I had 15 minutes, and at the end of that 15 minutes, the whole thing disappeared, right?
Yeah.
And you think about how,
what a gift, right?
Yeah, what a gift to get up when the alarm went off and go out there and experience that. And I did actually capture a quick picture of it, because I wanted to be able to reference it in the future, to be able to regurgitate those feelings, right? To relive the experience. And that is the beauty of a digital photo or a photo from a camera, is being able to relive the feelings associated with it. And I think that's a positive about capturing something digitally or in a camera. So many pictures, so many photos that we have on our phones that we never look at again. And luckily, if you have an iPhone, it creates these cool
memories.
Yeah. I think I sent you one the other day.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, of my little previous corgi, you know, and I'm like, yeah, it's so cute, because we got a new corgi, and now, you know, I sent it off to my girlfriend, and it was a wonderful little retrospective. I mean, I don't have time to do that, right? I don't even want to do that. But it's the fact that it's done, it gives me the opportunity to relive those times. And
it's that connection. And it brings you right back to that connection you had with your dog. I mean, you know, it's like, okay, you know, and then I think that's what simplicity is really all about. I mean, when we have that place where you go back to these simple things, it wasn't that, you needed to go out and have this lavish dinner and spend all this money and do anything. It was like to fill your heart. It was, oh, there's my corgi. And all of a sudden your heart was filled with joy. What more simple could there be than that? And Wayne Dyer used to always say, like, the wisdom of life consists in the elimination of all the non-essentials. And I was watching something the other day of these individuals that live out on their boats along the river. And it was very interesting. I don't normally tune into things like that, but it was something that just popped up in my YouTube feed after I was done watching something else. And, I'm looking at this small space that this couple had, and their challenge was actually getting potable water because the river was not clean where they were, and so they were kind of they didn't have a vehicle to go get water, and so they kind of went to the other boats. It kind of reminded me of living like a gypsy, and I thought, oh, could I do that? Well, that'd be pretty simple. It'd be a pretty simple life. Maybe I could.
Yeah, only what you needed. Let's look at it this way. Happiness, self-love, connection doesn't really need to be complicated. It doesn't need to be complicated. It's you put yourself in a place, in a position to experience the connection and to connect with somebody, not only verbally but from an emotional perspective. And it doesn't take much. You can what was Mick was saying, simplicity. Keep it simple. Not complicated. You sit, you listen, you connect, you create an understanding between it. You develop an understanding, between the two of you, or however many people there are, and it's a wonderful thing. When I go out to eat, I go to restaurants where I can. My intent is to develop a relationship with the server and the staff that's there, the people who we come in, the manager of the restaurant. That's really the goal. So when I come back, if I like what the experience I've had there, I deepen the experience by getting to know the manager, by getting to know the hostesses at the front, or the server that helped us out, get to know a little bit about them. And the first thing I do, more than anything else, is I ask them their name. What is your name? I want to make sure I have your name, so I can call you by name, right? And so there's a restaurant that we go to, and I have the cell phone number of the manager. If I want to get a table, I text him, last minute or whatever. I say, hey, we decided to come out today. He says, no problem. I always have space for locals. I got a table for you, and he gets back to me, and it's done. Right? Same thing at restaurants we go to when we go to Biloxi, or when we go, anywhere else that we go to a lot. New Orleans, same thing. You get to know people, and you'd be surprised at how many people go out to a place, and let's say a restaurant setting, and don't take the time to learn the name of the person who's serving them. Don't get to know one small thing about them that you have in common. And in many cases, it could be a dog or a cat, because everybody's got a dog or a cat, right? Or a bird or something, some kind of furry animal at home. And 9 times out of 10, they will. And so the way to establish a connection, I tell this to people all the time, is to find common ground. Find something that you have in common as quickly as possible and build from there. And that's the way to do it. People who are on their phones all day, there's a huge issue with young people who don't feel comfortable in a full setting with a lot of people. And to me, it's like wow, this is a panacea of joy, because I get to learn about people. Now, it's not about going up to everybody and saying, hey, who are you? How are you? I'm so-and-so. It's a function of just sitting back and taking an assessment of the energy and being comfortable with yourself and feeling the joy and the love that you have for yourself, and then connecting with someone. It could be by themselves. It could be a couple. You can go over and say, hey, what's going on? How are you guys? Why are you guys here? What brought you here? And that's the first thing you have in common, that you're in the same place. right? It's not hard. It's not challenging. It's not difficult. It's just keeping things very, very simple. And you'd be amazed at how simplicity can not only create the foundation of a relationship, but can expand upon it in many, many, many ways. And I love that more than anything else.
Well, I think both you and I got. We didn't realize it, but we both were coached last week. I was thinking about that because I was reminded again about listening and observing and sort of understanding, and I was a lot of reflection. I was thinking about a lot of sort of the foundational keys that unlock the potential in each of us, not just the athletes. I mean, if I had an opportunity, I would love to be in that gym and just being sort of like a fly on the wall, seeing the dynamics of everybody. And I don't think in life it doesn't matter whether you're coaching a future champion, because Mick took the simplistic route and worked with his children. He wasn't trying to elicit and say, I'm going to be, coaching this child to become the next Tiger Woods or the next Ronaldo or the next whatever. It was just sort of like that simple joy in seeing somebody get the skills, having it be simple, having it be a deep personal transformation. It was the relationships. That was what was so profound for me, was the reminder of the relationships. And I think a lot of parents, and he both you and he brought up a really good point. Their kids are so overscheduled. They have no time to just simply be kids, because they have their homework and then they go from XYZ to the other ABC, and they just don't have the opportunity to sort of focus on what it means to be a human being. And when we were kids, we waited for after dinner, and we would go out and play with the kids, and we would play until after dark. And we didn't have a lot, like you said, we didn't have the technology that they have now. But I think that it's that simplicity. When you go back to that, it really fosters trust, it deepens relationship, it does a lot of different things. And we really are sort of obsessed with this world of this constant noise. And I sometimes I'll get in the car, and I mean, it's easy to turn the radio on. It's a distraction or a book or whatever, but sometimes it's just I'll leave my phone behind when I go to the park with the dogs, because it's just I simply want to breathe in the wilderness and be in that space and be fully present with my dogs on the walk.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I have my phone with me only to just track the amount of walking I do. That's all I ever do with it. I don't get on it, look at it. I don't walk my dog. I'm present with my dog, and because the dog knows whether you're present with it or not. It knows what it can get away with when he's on his phone. I can go do this thing, And you want to develop a relationship with your dog that can foster, more maturity in the dog and you, and you're training the dog as well. How to go on a walk? What kind of walk is it? Is it a sniff tour, or is it you going out to do your business? And there are different kinds of walks. The do your business walk can turn into a sniff tour walk. But I'll tell you what, if you're not paying attention, your animal knows it. They know you're not paying attention.
You're absolutely right.
And they'll just literally, okay, I'm going off in that direction because he or she's not watching, And that's just the way it is. They're the loving creatures, and it's a wonderful.
They are wonderful, absolutely. And I know you and I never were parents, but I think that we observe. And we observe a lot about what goes on in our lives. And I think that both you and I try to live our lives by doing what truly, truly matters. And so when we see kids maybe, or parents being frustrated with their children, it's like, okay, where is the challenge in that? And I think, Louise, going back to Louise Hay, she always said that children thrive on love and approval. And so I think that's sort of what Mick sees in not just children, but also adults. It's like, even though he said he may yell at them sometimes, he said they are the ones who come back because they feel it as a sense of love. And I was thinking about it, right. When I was a kid, we had a lot of time to play and explore and be creative. And I think that assisted me in developing a lot of my problem-solving skills. Like, as we were speaking earlier this morning, I was sharing with Michael that I had to jimmy jack something because I just had to figure out a way to make something work. I wasn't quite sure exactly how I could get something accomplished. And so I had to use my own resilient skills of not going to like, okay, this is what the book says. I'm just going to be creative and figure it out on my own. And I think that's a lot of what we're doing in UC right now is everything has to be done by this rigid playbook rather than just like, okay, I'm going to figure this out through my experience. And I think that helps to foster strength and also emotional intelligence. And that could be part of the reason that we're seeing so much anxiety around youth, because they don't have those skills. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Michael?
Thank you for asking, and you're right about what you're saying. What I think, it's anxiety, the coming together of 5 negative emotions at once. So count them up. You become overwhelmed and anxious about life. One of the things you said more than anything else is that you were given, that resonated with me, was that you were given the opportunity to discover, to be curious, and to try things, and without judgment, and that is incredibly important. I come across parents all the time that literally they're curating their child's life experience so that they have no free time to mess up. And I'm like, okay, hold on a second. You're doing what? They want to keep them so busy that they don't get into trouble. And I'm like, well, the point is, getting into trouble is the point. You want them to understand, that the choice and consequences narrative. You want them to, and it's not like they're going to go out and start taking drugs and all that kind of stuff. You have to have the faith in the
boundaries.
Faith of the child to understand, to teach them boundaries and what that can really, the detriment that can have in their life and to themselves physically and whatever. But the idea that, and I believe that's really what made our family, myself and my brother and sister, so entrepreneurial and independent, self-actualizing, okay? And I am the epitome of self-actualizing when it comes to the three of us. And that's just because I learned to love cooking and cleaning and taking care of myself way early in life, in my teens. And I just knew there was a way to do things. I'm a middle child, if that psychologically means anything. I have no idea. It probably doesn't. But somebody's figured out put together some diatribe about middle children.
True.
Like, who cares? My point is, I turned out the way I like, and I love being neat. I like to wash clothes. I like to see things clean. I like to make sure that I love to fix things. I love to, get curious. If something gives me a problem, I want to think about it for a little bit and intuit the solution. Solution that really works, and I've done it at the barn. I do it around the house here, and I just love that. It's not like I'm tasked with a problem that I don't want to have to deal with, and woe is me, I've got to go do this thing, and I don't know what I'm going to do, and woe is me. And no, it's like, okay, let me think about it. Sandy will come to me and say, we got to do this thing. I don't know how to do this thing. I said, well, let me just think about it. Okay, let me go do something else, and I'll come back to you in a day or two with what we can do. And you don't get all upset about it. You see that as a wonderful challenge to intuit a solution to an issue, a problem, or a challenge that has come up. So I love that. And anxiety with these kids today, to be more specific about your question, wow. My straight view of this is that if kids were given the ability to be curious and go out and make mistakes and learn from those mistakes, that they would have less anxiety and fear, doubt, worry about themselves. If they were able to, we talked about this a couple of shows ago, develop a sense of what they were good at, about what their gifts and skills were as an individual, and that would be their bedrock, their anchor to understanding themselves. And right now, I think I see parents just pushing their kids in one direction or another that they think they might be good in, or, I like football, so you ought to go play football, and I'll teach you how to play football, and I'll make sure you're a good football player. And I didn't ask it whether or not you want to play football or not, right? Or basketball or volleyball or hoop, whatever it may be. It's life. Raising a child flat out is expensive. And parents buy into the diatribe of you need to the child needs to go to the best school, the best elementary school, the best kindergarten, the best preschool, the best high school, the best everything. And really, in my view, the goal ought to be the development of that individual. And you never know where that's going to occur. It may be at the best school. It may not be, right?
Yeah.
You're
right. And I mean, I think that's a big thing. I mean, and Abraham Hicks talks about it all the time. Being in alignment with Source, and when we try to control every challenge instead of just trusting the process, it's like taking that boat and trying to go upstream. And I think you moved a lot. I moved a lot, and it taught me adaptability. It taught me resilience. I was always the new kid. And so I had to make it work, because if I wasn't outgoing enough to introduce myself, I would be in the corner, and I wouldn't have had as happy of a childhood, I think. But it gave me confidence, and it gave me a lot of inner strength, and I was able to navigate life with a lot of courage, because I didn't have any other choice. But there was some simplicity in that. And I don't know what, when you were speaking, it actually reminded me of an experience I had. When we lived in Calgary the second time, and it sounds so funny, but it was like a 3-tiered big hill with stairs. So there's 3 sets of large stairs. I think there's 180 stairs. And so we would walk to school. We were in the school buses. We walked to school, and then we walk home for lunch, and we walk back, and after school we'd walk back again. So I did these stairs all the time. Well, then one day my brothers and sisters and I decided we were going to ride our bikes, and we went all the way up to the top of the hill. And I decided I was going to ride down this hill next to the 3 sets of stairs. Well, that was a great idea until I ran into a rock, and I was flying and landed in these bushes, and my handlebars were completely crossed. My bike, the rims were bent and whatnot, but I had to get the bike home, and I dusted myself off and, went back down and, figured it out. I don't even remember where it was a lovely bike, but not after that. But, it was that same thing. I mean, what a simple, silly thing to do. I mean, I don't know where my thought processes were, but when I got home, my mom was like, "Oh, okay, well, I guess you can't ride your bike anymore." And she didn't freak out and did you break it? I didn't break anything. I mean, it was just, and my brother and my sister were just in awe of the fact that I wasn't a trick rider, but I certainly had got some big air when I hit that rock and went up and landed in the bushes. But, and I think that's what the simplicity is. It's like, it's not that you're won't need to avoid struggle, but it's like, okay, I have this ability, this internal programming, whatever it is, that don't focus on the outcome. Just have this mindset that everything is going to be okay. You don't know how it's going to happen, but it is. And I think that that's really one of the greatest gifts that a parent can give their child, is the ability to trust themselves. Yep, exactly.
Yeah. It's like, I knew exactly what you're thinking. Trust in yourself. It's interesting. This high degree of loneliness amongst young people. And I'm like, it's to me sometimes I sit back and I just laugh. I'm lonely? What are you talking about? We got 330 million people in this country. You're lonely? And it's like, understand, prescription for loneliness. Figure out what you love and go out and do it. And you will find other people who also love it. And you'll make friends with them because you have something in common instantly, right? And it's like, it's not as if you're going out to a ball game of 10,000, 20, 30, 100,000 people, and just because you like football, you're going to actually make a friend going to a football game with 100,000 people in the stadium. That's not what I'm talking about. Everybody's going to watch something. I'm talking about something that you like to actually engage in. I know people who say, I love to bowl, but, I don't go bowling because I don't have anybody to go bowling with. And I'm going, really? Well, go by yourself. If you're a single person in an alley, I guarantee you some other people are going to say hello. They're going to see how you're bowling. They're going to give you tips. They're going to do something, right? And it's the golf. That's why I love to play golf. I stopped playing tennis in 1976 when I was 18 because I needed to actually go find a player. And it's fine going to the park. In those days, we didn't have cell phones and these other things and the ways that you can, and bulletin boards and digital this and that where people could sign up or whatever. That wasn't it. But you went to the local park and you stood around waiting for somebody, the ability to get into a game. And the issue is sometimes people wouldn't want you to, unless they knew you, right? You develop a connection with someone and they know how you play. Golf, you go to a public golf course, and they'll put you with somebody. They don't know. They don't care how you play. They'll just go, you're a single? Great. Well, you're on the list. The next single comes up, group that they only put 4 people out at a time, and they want to make sure it's 4. Not 2, not 1, not 3, but 4, right?
Oh, really?
So
I don't play golf, so that's new to me. That's great.
Yeah, that's the way it goes, especially in places where courses are incredibly busy, right? And sometimes I've heard them putting 5 people in a group to play, which is kind of unheard of in places like where I am here. But in big cities where there are a few golf courses and a lot of players, they'll do that. It'll be a longer round. However, they start at like 6 a.m. So, and the day's longer, especially in the East. So when I love it, what I loved is in California when I just wanted to go play golf, I would just get up early in the morning and go to the golf course and say, I'm a single, put me on the list. They got a list of people, list of singles. And then you go, they'll call
like
you. And they
speed dating. I'm sorry, I'm laughing.
Well, okay, that's not speed dating, okay? That's you and one-on-one sitting down with somebody and having to do a quick figure things out. But I think that if you have, to me, speaking of dating, if you're someone who would like to meet someone someone to date, someone to go out with, to go do things with, in my view, the biggest issue that people face is that they don't do it because they feel obligated to do things. And I'm like, you know what? I would simply say you're looking to spend time to get to know somebody. That's what you're doing. Mm-hmm. You go to lunch, you get to know them. And you're going to find out whether there's any energy or vibrational frequency, alignment, whatever you might want to call it. You're going to find out whether or not you have the capability to take it farther and be friends, right? Because you need to be friends with somebody first. And so what a lot of people do is put the cart before the horse. They go, well, what if? And I'm like, wait a minute, hold on a second. You never even met the person yet. You never can tell what might happen, right? So the idea is not to sit home alone. The idea is to get out and go do something that you like. Again, You go to a restaurant that has food that you love. Don't go to a restaurant you've never been to, right? Go to a coffee shop where you know the people that are there. They see you all the time.
Right.
You just meet somebody else there and share coffee. There are other people. There's other energy there you already in sync with. So there's lots of ways to do this. There's lots of ways to do it. It's just, there's no need to say, I'm lonely, I'm home alone, I don't want to leave. And first thing out of my mouth is, how are you going to meet anybody sitting on your couch? It's not going to happen, right? I wish I had somebody to go do something with. Yeah, really? What do you like? What do you love to do? Friend of mine, pickleball, big thing right now. And there's a lot of pickleball pickup games. People come as a single and they put their name on a list, just like we used to do at the golf course, and you join somebody for pickleball doubles, right? And in the meantime, if you love it, you'll be practicing it. So you'll get some proficiency because it's something that you enjoy. I wouldn't go out and play pickleball if I didn't like it, right? You wouldn't do something that you didn't like. That vibe isn't going to jive with the people that you meet. You're bringing negative energy to the space, and that's not good for anyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're right.
So I don't know, man. I could talk for hours about meeting people.
Well, no, but it is. It's so important, Michael, and I love the fact that you bring up overthinking because I'm not an overthinker. I just am not. I use discernment, and I pretty much I know in my heart what direction I need to go. But I know I have a few friends that they overthink every interaction and ask, well, what if this and what if that? And instead of just simply being present and then being loving. Whereas I'm just like, okay, so I could spend hours doing the what ifs, but instead I choose not to. I think that, and that's one of the things that I think that Mick brought into the conversation. It was really the sheer joy of being uncomplicated. Just being in the flow and, again, listening, observing, understanding, providing this simple foundation for support and creating an environment where love and trust can flourish. And that is really, when it all boils down to, it's just that simple. And going back to Louise Hay again, when she started her publishing company, she had an idea for this book called You Can Heal Your Life, and she didn't have the funds. She didn't have anything else. She just she wrote it out, and she made copies on the copy machine. She hand-assembled these books, and a lot of people laughed at her. But, she had this idea that there was this power in affirmations and simple statements that could reshape your reality. Simple statements. Her book was very, very simple. Who would have thought such a simple action could have grown into such a large publishing company and also events? I mean, she had Wayne Dyer was one of her authors. I mean, all of these just amazing thought leaders that all became under her umbrella of Hay House Publishing. Just from one simple idea.
But also, not to interrupt you, but the beautiful thing about Louise Hay is that she saw a need and she filled it. At the time that she did this, number one, they didn't really look at women the same way that they looked at men. They looked at them differently, like, you need help, you can't do this, don't do that, go do this, because that's what women do. That's number one. In the publishing industry, certainly, it was a man's world. The other thing is the niche that she discovered was self-education. She discovered that people wanted to know how to be happier, more joyful, to change their lives, right? And so she wrote her first book, right? She didn't just say, I'm going to start a publishing company. I'm not an author. I could never do that, right? She actually said, this genre doesn't exist right now. There's space for this. Large publishing companies aren't focusing on self-education. They're, self-improvement, self-education. Some people call it self-help. The point is, she saw that need, that this was, we were on the cusp of something was changing, and something was guiding her to create this. And look what happened. There were some awesome people that she came across that were misunderstood by mainstream publishers. Misunderstood.
Right. And Michael, and I don't know if you know, but she worked a lot, and this was a time when AIDS was very misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was one of the people, she would have these gatherings in her living room. And
Mm-hmm.
it became hundreds of men that joined her. And she would give them this pamphlet about how you can heal your life. And that's what garnered her the attention. Next thing you know, she was on the Oprah Winfrey Show. She was on Phil Donahue. And that was
Mm-hmm.
really then you can heal your life. Ended up on the New York bestseller. New York Times bestseller list.
It's kind of hard not to if you're on those shows. Number one, but she's on those shows.
Something simple, right?
Yeah, because it was like a wave she could see. And using this analogy, you're out on the water, you're a surfer, you've got to know how to spot waves. The beginning of the wave, okay, where a wave could possibly begin. And she had this she was guided to see this wave. And she took it and she rode that wave. The wave did develop. She was on it from beginning to end. And what I love about it, because I know a couple of Hay House authors, and the beauty of it is, it was, as long as it seems to me that as long as the book was, the publication that you were writing or whatever was it fit into the loving, joyful, happy column, so to speak, of how people can become more self-actualized, about how people could be more self-confident, how they could build their own self-esteem, how they could move from point A to point Z with their minds, and really it was a whole lot of different things. A lot of these authors that came out of that era are icons today.
Mm-hmm.
She included,
absolutely,
right? She included iconic.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely. And I think she was the one who started publishing Abraham through the channelings through Esther Hicks.
Exactly.
Yep,
yeah.
And Doreen Virtue, your friend.
Doreen Virtue as well.
Believe.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Doreen Virtue.
I know, it's just amazing.
And yeah, it is. She is a fabulous person. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, I know. And that little book sold 4 million copies. I know, I don't remember. I think that was the first edition, but then years later she came out with the book again, and it was the only book that was on the bestseller list twice. Once when she first originally did it, and then later on when she re-released it under the new branding. But simplicity. I mean, it's just something so simple, and it profoundly, those simple affirmations, which I do, you do, they change things, and it's just beautiful.
They do, and they keep your mind focused on in the right direction. That's the other thing that they really, really do. It's very challenging to get swayed in another direction when you keep telling yourself something over and over again. You become it. You become what you say. You become what you say. Whatever you say I to, you become. I tell people that all the time. Watch what you say. Be alert. Be cognizant of what it is that you're saying about yourself at all times, because that's the reality that you're creating for yourself, right? We got about a little less than a minute to go, and I wanted to say how wonderful again it was to have Mick on, and we will, for those other guests, for those listeners on PRN FM, catch that interview if you haven't caught it already on our Connect to Love podcast that's available everywhere. But also, we're going to have Mick on again because we're going to continue that conversation in the next month or so. He's already agreed, and we'll figure it out. But thank you.
It's fantastic. And Michael, I just want to ask for any of our listeners, if you enjoy what we share, please share these insights, share the show, share the podcast. And I'm going to give you an affirmation that I love. I am love, and I am wisdom, and I am joy, and I am peace, and I am grateful, Michael, for you and for everybody who tunes into the show. So I am becoming that, and I know you are love and you are connection, and it is an absolute pleasure and a delight each week. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, listeners.